Hi, everyone. Would you believe it? I am returning to Joni Mitchell again. Well, the truth is, I have really enjoyed getting to know her work recently with the complete album listen of Blue, and then another weekend of exploring more of her music. And now, well, many of you said, after I listened to those, said, her voice changed as she got older, and her career was quite long, and we really would like you to hear her later voice as well. Well, it turns out that there is the perfect song to do that with. One of the songs I listened to was her recording of Both Sides Now. And then Vlad said, well, there's another version, which is a good deal later in her career, and you will get to hear what they're talking about with her later voice. And so I am returning to Both Sides Now today. This version is Joni Mitchell revisiting her own classic more than 30 years later, backed by a sweeping orchestra, produced with Larry Klein, arranged by Vince Mendoza, and turned into one of the defining late career reinterpretations in popular music. At the 43rd Annual Grammy Awards, Joni Mitchell and Larry Klein won Best Traditional Pop Vocal Album for Both Sides Now, and the title track's team was recognized in the Grammys material. Vince Mendoza is widely credited with winning Best Instrumental Arrangement Accompanying Vocalist for Both Sides Now. So this one sounds like not just a return where I get to explore how her voice developed, but also it sounds like I also get to be treated with a sort of team effort where everybody is recognized as having an important role to play in how this song came about. Let's listen. Definitely different than just the guitar. Have this sort of golden light feel
of angel hair.
Oh,
And ice cream castles in the air.
I don't think I would have recognized this as her voice.
Feather canyons everywhere. Looked at clouds that way. But now they only...
You were right. Her voice really did change. And I don't know, it's not just changed in texture, in timbre, but also it has really deepened. I guess a lot of you mentioned her smoking, which contributed to that, I'm sure. But still, it's very smooth and melodic. Smoking doesn't always behave so kindly towards the voice, if I might say it that way. This is so impressionistic. As I said, it's like golden light. The perfect setting for rows and flows of angel hair.
Rows and flows of angel hair. And ice cream castles in the air. And feather canyons everywhere. Looked at clouds that way. But now they only block the sun. They rain and they snow on everyone. So many things.
Ooh, I like the way that the cello coming in down there, the bass coming in down there.
But clouds got in my way.
So, comparing this, I don't want to turn this into just a comparison between the two, but I can't help it because it is the same song, right? And in my first listen of her original recording was fairly recent. I feel like these are both coming from two different worlds, two different experiences. I guess it makes sense because after 30 years later, you have lived a whole lifetime more of experience, right? So it is coming from two different worlds and two different experiences. She's still handling her voice so incredibly well. The way she shapes the lines, the way she shapes the phrases, the way she directs the music and directs our ears and directs us in our way of feeling and relating to it. We hear her driving towards a point and we are carried along with it so that we experience that moment, that peak, and then the answer. I've looked at clouds that way. The next verse, but now they only block the sun. I'm trying to decide, is it just the lyrics and the fact that I know what's coming lyrically? Because I felt a sudden darkening, a sudden chill. And at the same time, when I tried to identify it orally, her voice hadn't really changed, but still it was more the pacing, I think, of how she approached and made her way through that line. Because even the instrumentation didn't really get colder or get darker. Although as we grew through that second verse, we did start hearing more and more bass, the cellos and the bass instruments. And it started to instrumentally grow as well. But there was a real shift in mood. And I'm going to go back and listen to it again, but I believe it's mainly simply her magic of how she approaches and travels through each lyrical, even each syllable, even each fraction of a note.
Canyons everywhere.
This is light here, feather canyons everywhere.
Looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun.
Mm-hmm.
They rain and they snow on everyone.
And we hear that,
So many things,
and we lean into so many things I would have done, and it
but
trickles
clouds
away.
got in my way.
When you hear that cello strumming.
I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions.
I like that little bit of
I really don't know clouds
brushy type percussion. It's almost like
at all.
it's almost like a march, almost like a funeral march.
Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing
There is.
way that you feel as every fairy tale comes.
She makes you feel every corner of the line as she
I've
sings
looked
it.
at love that way, but now it's just another show, and you leave them laughing when you go. And if you can, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away.
Okay, this is one of those pieces where I feel like I have to stop and comment on this because it's rare when I meet a rock song that I feel really allows or is really treated with an orchestra in a way that feels perfectly natural, perfectly belonging. I've listened to a fair amount of stuff with orchestra in it. It usually tends more towards either rock music with some string sounds in the background, string or whatever. And yeah, that works. And it fits in the rock setting. But I'm talking here, where this is more classical in its setting. And I've listened to a few of those types of crossover or progressive rock. And I can't say, well, as you know, and if you've followed my journey, many of them I feel like, yeah, they're well done, they're well handled, and it's nice, and yeah, it works. This one feels like it lives here. This one feels like, funnily enough, it almost like it erases our memory of the original recording. It makes me feel like it has lived here and belonged here its entire life. It feels like it's such a seamless blend. I'm listening to the percussion, which, okay, it could be a rock drum set. It could be, or it could not be. As I said, it sounds rather like a funeral march. With the plucked bass and that it's not really leaning towards rock instrumentation. However, it could easily allow some to come in. There are hints of it coming in, and it doesn't feel like it's an experimental blend or an effort to link the two genres, the two traditions of music. It feels like it simply lives in its own world. This piece of music and this performance of this piece of music is its own identity. There is nothing saying, oh, this is classical influenced. Oh, this is rock influenced. Oh, this is folk influenced. It simply picks itself up and says, I am. It really does.
But now it's just another show, and you leave them laughing when you go. And if you can, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at
A bit of brass coming in there.
sides now.
Warming it up, filling it up. Oh, that's such a great line in this arrangement.
That I recall. I really don't know love. I really don't know love at all.
Nice transition.
And fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds. I've looked at life that way. Oh, but now, old friends, they're acting strange. And they shake their heads and they tell me that I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall, I really don't know life.
This is, I want to say this is magic. It's more than magic. This is an incredible experience. And this idea is turning in the back of my mind. Because I said it's not it doesn't try to be classical, or it doesn't try to be rock or anything like that. It is its own. It says, I am and I own. If I were going to try to place it in a genre or in a tradition, though, I think I would put it in the perhaps the theater, the Broadway tradition, or think of some musicals, because it has that kind of drama and that kind of feeling of this is a dramatic reflection on one's life. This is a dramatic reflection on these ideas. She's singing it in such a dramatic way, not melodramatic, but dramatic nonetheless. And it's the instrumental setting is so well chosen. This sort of swirling bed, wall, carpet, setting of strings, where the harmonies are so swirling, and it's very dense texture and complex harmonization. It's very impressionistic, and it's using this impressionistic setting to create a stage on which she can sing this song. I mentioned that the percussion with the bass gives this sort of funeral march overtone to it. I don't want to over-exaggerate that, but the reason it stands out to me is because it's an example of the multi-layered, multifaceted interpretation that this song is. It's an instrumental expression of the inevitability of death, of our impending death, also the death of certain phases and experiences of our life as it goes on, and looking back and seeing, oh, that time died, that time marches on. And time doesn't always march. It's not necessarily saying we're being all jaunty and hopeful here and happy smiley. It's an acknowledgement of the fact that every second passing is one that brings us closer to life's end. But at the same time, it's not mournful. It's rich. It's colorful. It reminds me of the sort of musicals and stage productions of different stories, life stories, experiences. I might have mentioned this in my first listen of her first recording of this. I might have mentioned this. I can't remember if I did. I seem to think that the thought crossed my mind then. And here it comes back again. The idea, the same sort of expression of life's experiences and how they change us. Oh boy, now I know this song and I can't think of the title. It's from Les Miserables. It's Fantine's song, right? I dreamed a dream. Yeah, I dreamed a dream. It's the same sort of. It's the same sort of expression of how life has changed us and shaped us. And I feel it in the same way, although each one is so unique in its own story that it tells. But that's where I feel this song lives, is in that kind of artistic expression of life and human nature. Not operatic, but certainly musical, as in musicals, stage productions of stories.
In living every day,
I love this saxophone.
At life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions. I recall
It's life's illusions.
I really don't know life at all.
Such a great choice to put the saxophone in there.
It's life's illusions that I recall. I really don't know life. I really don't know life at all.
And then this bed of string color that keeps continuing. It's almost like you can take it in your hands and feel it. You know, at the end here, where she sings that last, I really don't know life at all. It's life's illusions, I recall. I really don't know life at all. And then she repeats that last line as well. And then the saxophone comes in. It's a different melody that the saxophone is singing.
I really don't know life. I really don't know life at all.
Saxophone now. I really don't know life at all. It's almost like the saxophone is continuing that idea and repeating. At all. Should I say it's pure magic? I'm not sure if that's really an appropriate expression for a song like this. But this is an incredible performance, an incredible arrangement, an incredible piece of music. And I don't think that I could suggest changing a single thing. I mean, it's good. It sounds good and fine, but every stage, every point along the way, it felt like somebody thought of adding just the right thing to take it to the next level. For example, this saxophone. Okay, it didn't have to be there. The orchestra was doing its thing, starting at the beginning, very quiet, and slowly, gradually, throughout the course of the piece, it was growing and expanding and becoming bigger and more dramatic. It was supporting the way that giving her the support she needed to do her thing and sing and present and communicate and convey this story of and this perspective of her life story. It's not so much her life story, it's this perspective on her life. And when the saxophone came in, I thought, that's a nice touch. But then it continued and it developed and it became something that took it beyond what could be a really finely written movie score or musical something or other. It suddenly took it into the solo performance, solo song. It stands, as I said, it says, I am. I am. It owns everything about it. And those kinds of details, those kinds of additions that aren't just a curiosity or, fun, nice idea, or how interesting, it really, really enhances something there. It's beyond that. It, just as it owns its genre, it owns this, it's not even a genre anymore, it's a musical expression that is, everything is there purely for the sake of conveying and expressing and communicating and creating this work of art, regardless of where it originated. It serves the music and this particular artistic expression exclusively. And so when the saxophone comes in, it is, again, something that purely, exclusively lives for the sake of this work of art. Really an incredible piece of music. What an experience. And I'm really interested to continue to explore her work, both early and late. But this really, really, this arrangement really makes me think, yes, I'm eager to explore more of how she handled music as a mature artist, with such a lifetime of experience. It's incredible. So that is my first time listening to both sides now, the later version. And now I have heard the early and the later and enjoyed each one immensely. I'll see you soon.